All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's news conference regarding the deployment of the U.S. National Guard, U.S. Marshals, and other federal agencies in Memphis. The purpose of today's news conference is to discuss the deployment and provide resources to the Memphis community. Next, we will begin the news conference with remarks from Kermit Moore, President of the NAACP Memphis branch.
Good afternoon, and thanks for being here today. On behalf of the NAACP Memphis branch and our community partners who are standing with us today include some of the NAACP Executive Committee, Shelby County Democratic Party, Shelby County Democratic Women, the National Women's Political Caucus, Memphis Urban League, Memphis and West Tennessee AFL-CIO, National Pan-Hellenic Council, Memphis Metro, Shelby County Voter Alliance, SCORE CDC, and Up to Vote 901. I stand before you to say clearly the federal occupation of Memphis is unnecessary, unwarranted, and it must end. Our city is not a military training ground. The occupation is not about fighting crime. The facts are clear. Over the past 2 years, both violent crimes and overall crime in Memphis has dropped by double digits. So, we have to ask, why here? Why now? Why are our taxpayer dollars being used to send troops into Memphis when the needs of our community are going unmet? The truth is simple. The resources being spent on this occupation could do far more good if they were invested in our people, in education, in workforce development, and in housing. That is how you build safe and strong communities. This is how you uplift families and create opportunity. Instead, we are being used as pawns in a political game, and we will not accept that. We will not stand by while our neighborhoods are militarized under the false promise of safety. Today, the NAACP Memphis branch calls on our government to change course, to invest in its citizens, to invest in the cities, and to treat Memphis with the dignity and respect it deserves. We stand united, and we will not be silenced. We demand investment, not occupation. We demand progress, not politics. I will bring up Gail Jones-Carson, President of the Memphis Urban League and second Vice President of the NAACP Memphis branch. Thank you.
Thank you, President Kermit Moore. Greatly appreciate those comments. The Memphis Urban League is very happy to partner with the NAACP Memphis branch and all the other organizations here. As we learn to deal with the situation that we're in, we are now occupied. And what we want to do at the Memphis Urban League and some of the other organizations is to make sure that our citizens are safe. Make sure that they have the resources that they need and the information that they need to be safe. They are here. Now what? We must make sure that our young people and all who are touched in any kind of way know how to deal with the situation. And a lot of us are talking about our First Amendment rights, and we do have First Amendment rights. We have freedom of speech. But we also know that many of us, historically, have been beat, have been killed, have been harmed because we exercise our freedom of speech. Being right also can cause you to be in jail. It can cause you to be dead. So what we want people to do is to stop, to pause, to think before you act. You got to think before you act, because you could be easily on that ground, you could be handcuffed, you could be in jail, or you could be in somebody's grave. So we at the Memphis Urban League, we have quite a bit of information and resources available for citizens on how to deal with a situation when you get arrested, what your rights are, and how to act in these kind of situations. We have a lot of information on our website, which is memul.org. And I can't plead enough with our citizens to just think before you act. It is very important. Like I said, you can be right, but you can also not be living too, trying to be right. So we don't want our city up in flames. We don't want people be beat. We don't want the fighting. We don't want any of that. But we also must take responsibility with our actions. We don't want them here, but they're here. So how do we help make sure our public, our citizens, our community is safe? And that's what we want to focus on. Thank you very much.
Will you bring it up here?
Ian. Oh, Ian, with, I'm sorry, with Shelby Vogt. Come on up, Ian. Ian Randolph.
Thank you, Ms. Gail Jones-Carson. I'm Ian Randolph with the Shelby County Voter Alliance. I'd like to speak to the community organizations, the churches, the unions in this city. It's incumbent for us to come together in the spirit of unity and work together to educate our community and our citizens on their rights and how to protect themselves. Groups like Free 901, along with the NAACP, are trying to fill that gap. The other thing that I'd like to bring up, since I do represent the Shelby County Voter Alliance, is the impact that this occupation, this illegal occupation, may have on voting. And it's been said that this occupation may not be something that's temporary. It may be something that's indefinite. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking about what's going to happen in 2026 when the elections start. Are there going to be troops outside the poll under the guise of protecting us while we vote? People need to understand and get up the courage to go to the polls next year to exercise their right to vote. We've seen that voting has consequences. If you didn't know that before, I'm sure you know that now. And one of the ways that we can get out of the situation that we're in is to exercise your right to vote. Don't be scared to vote if you see troops at the polls. Exercise your right. Start getting mentally prepared for that now. Do it now. Let's be proactive, not reactive. It's been said that when Memphis rises, the South will rise. This is God's little chocolate city, and he's not going to let us lose it. I'd like to bring up Mrs. Deidre Malone.
Thank you, Ian. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Deidre Malone. I'm president of the National Women's Political Caucus, but I'm also the first vice president of the NAACP Memphis branch. This group that we've convened today is action-oriented. We all saw the sham of a showing earlier this week when members of the Trump administration was in town and that visiting law enforcement officers were unleashed to do whatever they want to do in our community. We need to be prepared. President Moore mentioned that we want our community to be educated on what can potentially happen and the resources available for them to learn what to do and what not to do if you're approached by federal agencies. So working with the National NAACP, we did release a survey yesterday We asked 3 questions, and people are still taking the survey right now. We will make sure that we share those survey results on our website. Do you approve or disapprove of the National Guard being deployed in your community? How do you believe the deployment of the National Guard in our community affects safety and trust? And instead of deploying the National Guard into our communities, what issues do you believe the administration should prioritize and address? Here's what we're doing as a group. We have created a website on the NAACP page called Defending Democracy Together, a Safer Memphis for All. It's on our homepage. We have a hotline number, 901-206-2947. That will be monitored by our staff and triaged by our Chair of Legal Redress, Attorney Van Turner, and his committee. The website also shows a fact sheet from our national NAACP, and it talks about what you need to do when the National Guard is in your community. We also have a link that shares what the City of Memphis is doing with their Safe and Clean website. It outlines all of the federal agencies that are in our community right now, phone number with resources for our citizens to be educated and prepared. We want you to hear directly from the mayor and the police chief. So what we've done as a group is we've organized a virtual town hall meeting with Memphis Mayor Paul Young and Police Chief C.J. Davis. It's going to be Wednesday, October the 8th at 3:15. It is a webinar, so you're going to have to register to participate. But we want you to know that that information is on our website. That will be the first of several town hall meetings that we'll have. We're going to work with our partners that we built this coalition with to determine who our next speakers are going to be. But lastly, we built this coalition of partners because we know that we have all pockets of influence and credibility in our communities with this coalition. And it's going to take all of us to make sure that our people, Black, brown, and immigrant people, are educated and not afraid in their own communities. At this time, we'll take any questions you may have.
I'm sorry, Yanni, with Channel 3. Can you tell me what you're hearing from the community, any particular areas of town where there seems to be a stronger show of these
Anybody want to
agents?
take this one?
What you're hearing?
I'm hearing that people are afraid. I have a grandson who's a student at one of the local high schools, and he walks home every day. And with all of the law enforcement in the community, he's used to MPD, but he's seeing other types of law enforcement in the community, and he and his 17-year-olds friends are afraid. And so for us, it's about making sure that they're educated on what to do and what not to do. Make sure that, that they're not afraid because this is their community, and learn what their rights are. We think that's important. Does anybody else want to add to that? Anybody else hearing anything? You hearing the same thing, Vicki? Yeah.
Michaela, Action News 5, can you talk about some of those points that people should be aware of? I know you guys said you have resources on several different websites, but as we're live in this press conference now, if people want.
Absolutely. I've pulled the NAACP fact sheet, and it does basically state what the role of the National Guard is, and what we're hearing also from the mayor and the administration, that most of them are not going to be armed, but they're going to be working in the community. But what we're afraid of, and I can be real transparent about this, is the U.S. Marshals in our community and what they plan on doing. We're hearing that the numbers, Vicki, did you want to add to that? We're hearing that the numbers of the arrests are increasing. Yes. And so we just want our community to be prepared. That's what we're afraid of. Yes. And we don't want to live in fear. We've never really lived in fear. We don't want to live in fear. Yep.
So can I give a few points that I think people need to be aware of as we're in this space right now? As far as identification of records, everyone needs to renew their driver's license, tags, and insurance. Get a passport, probate court clerk Eddie Jones, 140 Adams. Keep birth certificates and social security cards in a safe place. Keep copies of lease, bills, or pay stubs for proof of residency and employment. Check check for any outstanding warrant. If you got an outstanding warrant, you need to clear it up. Pay any fines, tickets, or court costs. Stay current on child support obligations. Yes, child support too. Confirm your voter registration is active and up to date. There's just so much information that we have available that people, that they may seem small, but when you get stopped, it's not small. You may end up going to jail. The numbers are up. The arrests, as Deidre mentioned, the arrests are up. But we also need people to know how to handle being arrested, how to respond to the police. Like I said earlier, you have a First Amendment right, but there are consequences that come with your rights. And then you might not be able to be okay down the road, but what happens if you try to fight for your constitutional rights at the time of an incident where you're being arrested or where you're being stopped? So we are asking, please think before you act. And go to our websites. We have a lot of information, just basic information that can help save some people.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Vicki Terry, the Executive Director of the Memphis Branch NAACP, and I was informed by a reliable source that it's not the National Guard that we should be afraid of right now. It's the U.S. Marshals, the other federal agents that are here in our city that are, I'm going to say this, terrorizing some of the communities. I've heard that Fraser, Whitehaven, Hickory Hills, some of these areas are being terrorized by just these agents, not the not the National Guard. It's the U.S. Marshals and other federal agents that are here. I think there were about 700 maybe. There was a number that I was given. And these are the people that our youth and young adult, our grown-ups, need to be aware of what they're doing, because they have warrants for a lot of people. I think one young man shot himself. There was a warrant yesterday, and he shot himself on Wendy's parking lot. So these are the people that we need to make our community aware of. Thank you.
Can you talk about how people should act if they come across, the U.S. Marshals or other things? I know we touched on, how important it is safety-wise and First Amendment rights, but for anyone watching right now, maybe young adults, can you explain some of that?
I have two young black boys. One is in college, one is still in high school. And I go back to what we teach our young black children, period. When the police stop you, put your hands up on the steering wheel, be cordial, and comply with what they want. It's better to comply in this instance than to try and resist, as Ms. Gail Carson-Jones said, and wind up with something worse happening to you. If you are able, please pull out your phone and start recording. If you observe anything going on, pull out your phone and start recording. Keep a safe legal distance away from the activities so you don't get caught up, but be aware of what's going on around you. Pull out your phone and record. And what I hope is that our local law enforcement, our MPD and our Sheriff's Department are in a position to take information about things that happen to our citizens that are wrong and need to be followed up on after these people leave.
Okay, I do want to say one other thing that's real important, because right now, with the no carry, anybody can carry guns. If you have a gun in your car, if a policeman or anybody in law enforcement stops you, let them know right away you have a weapon in the car. You have to let them know that for safety reasons. And another thing, memorize or write down key phone numbers, family attorney, bail. So I was talking to somebody this morning, and she told me she keeps her insurance card and a lot of her stuff in her desk over here. So she said now she has moved it to right here where you keep this other stuff. You need to be able to get to this stuff quickly when the law enforcement come up. Be able to get to your stuff quickly. Don't be around looking for stuff. Be able to get to it quickly, because you don't know what mood they're in, what might happen. Just have your driver's license, your insurance, your gun. Let them know about your gun, but just and do it calmly. Some people, they immediately put their hands up or whatever. As he was talking about black males, we black mothers, we have to teach our sons and nephews and stuff, we have to talk to them differently about how to deal with law enforcement. And so most of us already know how to talk to our son, but a lot of people may not have that. But you just right now, with this heightened alert in our community, we just have to be more cautious and more safe in how we move and how we act.
I think you've all touched on a lot of really great points, but can you just share one overall message as we wrap up one work week and go into the start of another week with everyone being here?
I can't say enough to stop, to pause, to think before you react. Because a lot of times we react quickly without thinking, and that can cause some negative actions.
And be vigilant. Yeah.
Vigilant, how do you?
Watch.
Oh, watch, yeah, okay.
Good afternoon. I'm C.J. Crawford. I'm with Up to Vote 901. And I just kind of want to center this question about what you should do. I agree with everybody here that we should be trying to not throw our lives away when we encounter law enforcement. But I also want to center that this is a sad conversation to have, that you're trying to stay alive over a traffic stop. So what I want to say is be cautious and all of that, but also live your conscience. I refuse to be afraid that way. I'm not going to dodge eye contact with a law enforcement official. I'm not going to not assert myself. And if that gets me on the ground or death, I'm not making anybody a coward because they don't. But I also think it is wrong to ask our community to live in fear because you don't have ID, because your headlight is out. And I want to center there, the point of this is to make a public stand that this is wrong. And I don't stand for it, I don't support it, and I'm asking folks to do better politically, but in this moment, live your conscience. You have a right to exist without fear of your president, who is a convicted felon. You need to know that this is not about crime, because if he cared about crime, he wouldn't have called off the DOJ and litigating civil rights cases, but he did. Right? And you could say, well, maybe that's because he's pro-police and he's against crime by civilians. But he pardoned, gave mass clemency to criminals who attacked 140 police officers. Some of them beat unconscious and into heart attacks. They were clubbed. They were hit with chairs. And he pardoned those folks. So the belief that this is about crime as opposed to about some autocratic regime, some approach to fascism, I just think is wrong. And so what I'm asking folks to do is just think, record, and live your conscience. If the most important thing to you to do is to get home no matter what, fine. But for those of us who would rather have our dignity, right? We shouldn't be shamed either because we decide that we're going to stand up or look folks in the face and assert that we have First Amendment rights. So what I want to say is this wrong? The president is wrong. I understand agencies. You may just be a conscripted employee, but you are a part of something that is systematically wrong. And so it's not just the U.S. Marshals, it's the DEA, it's the FBI, it's the conscription of our local sheriff's department. And so this is what we call systemic injustice, and what we want to see is social justice. So I don't want to just live. I want to live in an environment that's fair and safe. And so as I move into the next week, I'm going to do what black folks have always done. I'm going to help care for us, provide resources, let people know what their rights are. I'm going to film, and I'm going to assert my right to exist like every other person in this country.
I want to say something. I was pulled over a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday night in Collierville by the Collierville police. And I used common sense, even though I might have wanted to say something differently, because what he did was he accused me of making a U-turn into oncoming traffic. And I'm standing there and I'm saying, he said, "Do you know what you did?" I said, "You tell me, what did I do?" And I was very polite, and I was like, "No, sir, I did not move into oncoming traffic, because I saw you sitting right here. I turned into a business, and I sit there at least a minute before I pull back out into traffic." But what he probably didn't think that I was going to have my insurance card or my driver's license. I gave him both. And I want to I tell my children, I told my niece, if you're driving out here not with license, don't get no fake license, don't get no fake insurance. Make sure you take care of what you need to have. And as Gail said, get your license. Go get a paper. You can go to the library where they'll print you off a piece of paper that says that your license is active or inactive or whatever. But just don't be driving around out here like you don't care, because you have got to care. You've got to make a difference in the community. I was not going to jail. And I was going to call them and tell them, y'all better come get me because I'm not going to jail for something that I didn't do. But I still had the proper identification that I needed so that they would not try to take me. But, that's all I have to say. Just as she said, focus and do what you need to do.
Alicia Ballinger here with from Tri-State Defender. You mentioned earlier that communities such as Whitehaven and Fraser are being targeted. Why were these areas chosen? From your perspective, was this the plan? Has this always been the plan?
From my perspective, I can only say from my perspective because these are probably some of the heavily populated black communities, especially Fraser. I'm going to say, we hear about that. We hear about Whitehaven. I heard that, there was a helicopter flying low or whatever last night. And, someone called me from South Memphis over there off of Saks Road saying that, they heard that the FBI agents was just walking the streets, people walking up on you, tapping on your cars, asking for ID and everything. So don't sit in your cars. I mean, I'm afraid to just sit in the driveway or sit in a car because somebody might walk up on me. But, I think it's because of heavily populated black.
And to add with this, when we're thinking about the mental health capacity of a lot of these individuals in these communities, just based off my research, there have been at least 3 officers to 1 resident, which can be, again, very traumatic to those that are going through these experiences. So what are we doing, or are there any other ways or any other organizations that can assist with these types of issues?
Well, we are all dealing with mental health, and I mean, all of us, I'm going to say this, because of this. People say that I'm not crazy, I'm not this, but I walked out of Regional 1 last night with my son, and the state trooper was sitting right here, and my son said, he's 35 years old. Oh, Mama, every time I see these people, I get a bad feeling in my stomach, because they're pulling you over just for anything. And he is a upright citizen here in, Memphis. But people like that, when they feel like, I'm scared, I'm nervous, all I can say is that we just need to, as we are together here as a group, all of us, we thought about this and we said, hey, we're going to pull together because it takes a team. It's not going to be just one organization by themselves. It's going to take all of us to make sure that we handle things properly. They're here. There's nothing we can do about that. It's nothing we can do about him in the White House. He's there, and it's us that's going to have to make a difference here in Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you.
And you asked what we're going to do in the next week. One thing we're going to do, we're going to find out if Tennessee, our governor, is violating our Constitution under Article 3, Section 5. Because this occupation is a violation, which in a nutshell states that the legislature must grant authority in the case of the National Guard. This hasn't been done. So what we're going to do, we're going to find out if this is a clear violation of Tennessee Constitution. We already know it's a violation of our national Constitution, putting the armed services on our own citizens. We see this in other countries, but we say we are free. We must be free indeed.
Any additional questions before we wrap up? Yes, sir.
Jack Armstrong, Commercial Appeal. We talked about how some of these neighborhoods are being used the word terrorized by federal agencies. Just wondering if you could give any particular examples from what you've seen so far in those neighborhoods.
I'm sorry. I was telling you what I had heard. I have not personally seen this. I don't live in this area or these areas, but I have heard about them. Just people calling me saying, this is what happened. This is what, I'm looking, somebody had her hand up back here. But I have not personally seen it, but I have heard about it from reliable sources that I rely on telling me that this has happened, where you know, as I said before, where they have been coming up to people's cars where they're sitting in cars, you know, bamming on their cars and saying different things to them, you know, asking for identification. So you need to have some sort of ID on you in case something happens. Okay.
May I?
Go ahead, Reverend.
Noel Hutchinson. This morning, I live about a mile and a half from here, further south in South Memphis. This morning, I'm on the phone with my cousin, and all of a sudden, I hear a helicopter sounded like it was in the house, but it was flying over the house. There are instances, and again, I could talk about the helicopter, but there are instances of where in Fraser, I think it was on Fraser Boulevard, North Watkins, and matter of fact, I saw actually people recording, like you suggested, on Facebook. They were recording right at Fraser Boulevard and Rangeline Road in that shopping center. There was a massive display of force there, not shooting people, but they had roadblocks, they were stopping people. So it's happening all over this community, and it's fluid. It might be here today, it might be over there tomorrow, it might be here at 4 o'clock, it might be there at 6 o'clock. So the bottom line is this: we had somebody from the Trump administration say to law enforcement, "You are unleashed." They did not specify as to who they were being unleashed on. So I refuse to live in fear, but I want to tell my fellow brothers and sisters in Memphis, have your head on a swivel, because they have been unleashed.
So, I do live in Fraser. I live in Fraser. I've lived in Fraser. Brian is 45. I've been living in Fraser 44 years. So the last night was actually the first night when I got off at Hollywood, off the Hollywood exit, that I did not see a stream of law enforcement. I mean, for the last, I would say at least 5 days, except last night, there were law enforcement cars, I mean, more and more each night. I don't know what they were doing, but all the car lights was flashing, the vehicles was all different sizes. I don't know what they were doing, because unlike this young man, he's not afraid. But I've always been afraid of the police. And so I got out the interstate, I drove to my house, and I went to my house and got in the house. But I will say there has been a significant increase of law enforcement in the Fraser area that I live in. So as far as what they were doing, I don't know. I do know it's more and more each night, except for, I don't know what happened last night, but they weren't there last night. But the numbers of vehicles have increased in that area.
This wraps up the news conference. We're wrapping it up.
This wraps up the news conference. If you have any other questions for anybody else, you can ask them. But we thank you for coming out, and we will fight for our people and make sure our citizens in Memphis, Tennessee are safe and not living in fear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Or not afraid, but I'm just not gonna live in fear.
Well, even before this happened, I'm always afraid of people. I am, because I know what they're capable of, I know our history, and I know you don't have to be doing anything wrong.
You don't.
You don't?
Now,
You sure don't.
I'm 43 years old, I'm a black man. I've been harassed enough. My cousin was killed.